What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Steph Sells Homes podcast, all things ADU, all things real estate, entrepreneurship. This episode is sponsored by Cameron at ADU West Coast, also by Joseph at Neo Builders at ADU Insider. Today we have a very special guest, good friend of mine, David Morrell, based out of Canada. David, thank you so much for being here today. Do you mind introducing yourself and telling people a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, Stephanie. It's an honor. I see how hard you work, and you put the dedication into branding and marketing and all things ADU. You're educating people, really smart. So I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I am based out of Canada. I own a real estate brokerage that's nationwide here. I've been in the business 20 plus years. I think 24 years in total now, something like that. We just opened our first US office, which is really cool, which officially makes
Congrats.
us, international. Yeah, yeah. So we're excited about that. So we're doing that. We just opened another office. Actually, we announced it, or we're opening it next month. We announced it yesterday at our company meeting in the interior of British Columbia, which takes in Kelowna, Invermere, Radium, Cranbrook, Salmon Arm, Vernon, that whole area. So that's where the expansion is going. So we're all excited about that. We're fairly disruptive real estate brokerage. We do things that are way outside the box. We tend to take principles and things that are working from other industries and apply them back to real estate. Have a top rated podcast. That's kind of a passion project sponsored by the brokerage, and that's been a lot of fun as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm passionate about the real estate industry as a whole, the changes that need to be made, the changes that have, affected the industry, as well as branding and marketing, unique selling propositions, all things real estate. Really excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. You've got a lot going on. Very dope stuff, though. How did you get started with the brokerage? How did you even tap into real estate? And then also the podcast, which I'm assuming is kind of probably inspired by the brokerage and everything you're doing behind the scenes with real estate, or vice versa. How did you get started with that?
Yeah. Well, that's a long story. So real estate, I personally got into real estate many years ago. My dad forced me to get into real estate. I was, I've been in different forms of
I hope my
entrepreneurship for a
son
long
doesn't
time.
say that.
Yeah.
My son's 9 now.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Well,
that's
it
not
was
him.
natural. I think it's in the DNA. There's nothing like real estate. I really enjoy real estate. There's nothing like, obviously closing sales and whatnot, but the branding and marketing that it allows you to do, and the stamp it lets you put on an industry is, something that we're passionate about. But, I was a top producing agent for many years. And then myself and my partner, Nathan, teamed up. We started a real estate team that grew. And then we started another team in another city that grew. Then we started another team in another city. And at that time, actually, it was pretty interesting because there wasn't a lot of that being done. So you had teams, early on when you had teams, they were typically partner teams. You'd
Right.
have a husband and wife or a couple partners as teams. What we started to do is master direct response marketing and lead generation 10, 11 years ago, something like that. I'm trying to remember, where we, create Facebook ads, Google ads, pay per click, and all that. It was kind of the infancy of that before it, exploded everywhere. And so because of that, we were able to generate an overflow of business, which actually was very attractive to agents. And so that allowed us to grow and scale teams pretty quick, based on leads. But, in amongst that, we got into, real estate coaching and
Hmm.
branding and marketing. And then we got very passionate about unique selling propositions inside of real estate. So what had happened was we grew 5 cities actually across Canada. So we had Victoria, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and Toronto was where our teams were. And we were slowly able to remove ourselves from production, which is kind of like, that's the gold standard in real estate. If you can do that, that's everybody's, end game, but very few people have done it. People talk about removing themselves from production in some way, shape, or form, or growing a team and taking a step back. Very few do that. Some still cherry pick the leads, etc. We gave up our license completely, which allowed us to force us to, grow and scale the teams, which we did. So we grew and scaled teams across the country. And then several years ago now, we actually flipped all the teams over into the brokerage, right? So we had to go province by province. So Alberta, Ontario, BC, etc. But our model is the way our model works is it allows us to do that. We can light up an office fairly seamlessly by just plugging into the mothership, which is GPG Central. That's our Greater Property Group Central. So that's kind of the flyover of how we started the brokerage. Of course, we're growing very, very fast, as we were talking about offline there. We just opened our first US office, which makes us international, which I'm excited about. Right?
Congrats, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. And then we just announced another office yesterday that we're going to be opening. So we're growing very fast. I think it's because I've always said that the industry is very archaic. There's not a lot of new innovation in the industry. You hear about some things here or there, but there's not a lot of disruption to the actual space. We find that the marketing and branding typically is tired. You got an agent
Very
based on
old
a bus bench.
fashioned. Yeah.
Old fashioned, yeah. So
one of the hardest things is what you were saying right now, as far as removing yourself from the business. I have a small real estate team. I'm in the process of getting my brokerage license because I want to ultimately pull myself out. And that's why I'm hosting all these meetups down the coast from LA all the way up to San Diego. So I can hopefully, build teams out and build a brokerage, or maybe even partner up with a brokerage like yourself, right? And kind of just bring that brand with myself and collaborate and integrate with another one. I think that makes much more sense too. But it's difficult getting yourself out of the equation and working on the business versus in the business. That's one transition that I've been on, for the last 2 years. I've managed a lot of teams, so I definitely understand the importance of like culture, right? So what does your model offer? And I know it's dope. It's a dope model. But how do you create culture, especially when you're scaling to another city, let alone another country, right? Or going international with it. Like, how do you cultivate culture? I know you host a lot of webinars and bring a lot of dope speakers to the table. Like, is that one strategy, right?
Yeah. So the first thing for us is, I'm glad you brought up culture because it's super important to us. Culture and chemistry, actually. I talk to agents sometimes, that would like to join the brokerage and I just don't think they're a fit. And I'll tell them, maybe you should call one of the big box brands, or
Right.
whatever. Culture and chemistry, we're very protective of it for a number of, we tend to attract like kind of a entrepreneurial younger demographic, kind of the next generation of agents. I think that's because it is a slick brand. I mean, it's an aspirational, well-edited brand, right? Which is one thing. But I think the main thing with culture is they have to understand the mission, like what we're doing. And that's the big thing is providing extreme, second mile service for your clients while at the same time looking good, right? So people have to get it. And there's 4 things that we're known for basically. And one is an overflow of business and leads for agents. So we do that. I don't focus a lot on that because you can generate leads almost anywhere now. It's 2023. You can run Facebook ads yourself and generate leads. We do have leads. We have one of the biggest real estate databases, I'd say, in the country. We have a massive database of buyers and sellers that we've grown for, a dozen years. So an overflow business. Number 2, and arguably most important, is unique selling propositions. Actually, that's one of our founding pillars. And to break down unique selling propositions, everything right now is being disrupted by what we call USPs, unique selling propositions. So the insurance industry, hotels, the taxi industry, everything is being blown up by unique selling propositions. In other words, being able to articulate, what makes you different from the competition. Why should somebody pick up the phone and call an agent at the Greater Property Group? So we're very passionate about it because, without USPs and without differentiators, you're just another agent. Right? You're just in the sea of agents. So for example, in Toronto, where we operate in one of our marketplaces, there's 55,000 agents or something like that in the Greater Toronto area. It's a massive area, right? Like, I don't know how many are in
Too many.
California there.
I think there's more licensed realtors than licensed people who actually have a driver's license here in California.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's how many realtors there are.
Yeah. So to quote our friend Apathy, it's like finding a needle in a stack of needles, right? Like it's really tough because, so how do you differentiate yourself? Well, one of the ways you can do it, besides the other stuff which I'll get to, is unique selling propositions, right? Like, why am I picking up the phone and calling you, right? So more often than not, what makes the industry super archaic in a lot of ways is the fact that you're not able to differentiate yourself. Hi, I'm Steph. I'm a really nice person. I've been in the business 5 years, and you should call me. Like, no one's calling you. You're wasting your money putting that on any type of advertising. You need a really
Right.
clear call to action. Why am I picking up the phone and calling you? And if you can generate an inbound phone call in real estate because of an ad or a piece of marketing, that is the gold standard, right?
Right.
Right. So if you put a billboard out, a bus bench, something like that. Now in Canada, what's interesting is, your viewers might not know this, but in Canada, it's a little bit different. So in order to make an offer or incentivize the public, you can't incentivize the public to work with you, right? That's considered illegal unless it's a brokerage wide offer. So you can't say, buy with Steph and get a free TV. You can't say that here. Like, you can't come up with your own offer. It has to be brokerage wide. So that's what makes, brokerage wide USPs so unique. So we were
Got it.
founded on this. We've got a number of, so we use a number of USPs that allow our agents to have strategic marketing. We obviously, we transact in crypto as well, which has been huge for our agents in terms of their luxury buyers and sellers. It's been a real massive driver for the luxury market in Canada here, is the use of crypto and blockchain, etc. So that's, just to give you an example. So USPs, that's one of the other things that differentiates us. And I think agents need to get that to be a part of the culture here. The third thing is branding and marketing. Super passionate about it. I've always had a heavy design eye. So I put, like, here's a new GPG merch. Get
I
the
like that.
Anarax rockets. Yeah.
I need to order one. I need one because
Yeah,
I
hell
like
yeah.
to
We'll get
go
you
for a
one.
run in the
Yeah.
morning, and that seems like very
Let's do
light.
it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, these are dope. They're like, like hoodies, but this one's sick because it's got like, anyways. So
I
anyways,
like it. Yeah. That's one thing
just
that I really love about you is the branding and marketing. And I don't think a lot of brokerages really emphasize that. The brokerage that I'm at right now, I'm actually helping them a lot with the marketing and personal branding at the KW office
mhm.
in Cerritos. And one thing they were asking me for feedback was, what do you think we can do to recruit more agents, right? Versus
Yeah.
their old fashioned traditional, word of mouth or the millionaire book, right? And reading that and learning how to scale the business. I think the most important thing that a brokerage can offer realtors right now, whether it's new realtors or seasoned realtors, is branding and marketing, because that's something that you can take with you anywhere, wherever you go, and you can share branding and collaborations with other brands, right? And kind of piggyback off each other's brands, and you attract like-minded individuals who stand in alignment with your brand. That's one thing that I've just been really big on, and podcasting. So I brought it up to their attention. I said maybe every broker should also offer like a dope podcast studio and offer that as a
Mhm.
service for new realtors and show them how they can repurpose content and how they can start creating a brand for themselves. So I like that you're super heavy on that. I definitely see the millennials and even the Gen Zs, right? Or Gen X, what are they called? The Gen Zs
I don't
following
remember
your
anymore.
brand
Yeah.
because of that. I think
Mhm.
you definitely like cater to that brand, plus the music background too. Like, how did the whole hip hop come into play, and you knowing so many people in the music industry?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been pretty networked in a good way, as having a nationwide company, you get to meet a lot of people. And,
Hmm.
I'm friends with, street artists, like, my friend Nick Walker here. And, I've hung out with Brainwash and, a lot of these guys. So art plays a heavy role in it too. Hip hop, it's funny you brought up hip hop. One of the things we created was called GPG Radio. So these are all branding pieces. Remember, these are all branding pieces.
Branding
And the
pieces,
podcast
yes.
is one.
Hmm.
Yeah, these are branding pieces. So in addition to the podcast, which interviews, entrepreneurs, best-selling authors, influencers, hip hop artists, whatever, celebrities, actors, comedians, we all, and again, we always relate it back to real estate somehow. We always do. Uh, in addition to that, as a branding piece, we created a GPG radio. So they were Spotify playlists. We called it Music to Sell Houses too. And we would have them curated by like famous street artists. So Nick Walker did one, Dalek did one. I'd like, so they've been really fun. And, we put a GPG branding on it. Looks a little retro or whatever, but sick as hell, right? Like really cool. Like these are all little things that play into the branding piece again, without thinking linear in the industry, like a lot of real estate people do. If somebody says you can't do that or that's weird, that makes us want to do it even more because, people, they have this traditional view of real estate thinking that it has to look a certain way, be a certain way. And, the name of the game is attention, right? Too. So when people look at it and they associate your brand with cool music and playlists and artists and in the fashion industry and the street art world and things like that, they want to be a part of it. It gets them going and feel, again, it all comes back to culture. So slowly but surely, we've added those pieces. And if there's a cool idea that relates back to the company, we're going to do it or figure out a way to do it. But, the playlists have been fun. I mean, that's been a really fun part. I mean, it doesn't, the ROI on it is not like, somebody's going to like buy a house because they heard our playlist. But the thing
Well,
is,
I
it
mean,
gives
you
the
never
agent,
know. I think that the conversion is in the connection, or the conversion is in the connection, right? So we don't think
yeah,
about these things, but people do connect with you because of other things outside of real estate. So your music taste is something that might be appealing for me, or at least for me, I've noticed it. Like, oh, David knows his shit when it comes to music, right? And when it comes to real estate, and when it comes to also like blockchain, crypto, that was one thing you started doing early on, right? Different from other brokerages as well.
yeah.
I heard you mention it when we were in one of the clubhouse rooms early on. You mentioned that you would have your listings in not only the Canadian dollar, US dollar, but also in crypto. And that was like an early marketing tactic that most brokerages weren't even thinking about at the time, right? Can you talk a little bit
I,
about that?
yeah, absolutely. So I don't think as far as I know, I think we're still the only brokerage in Canada that actually actively
That does it, yeah.
transacts in crypto. I mean, I know others have tried or they've talked about it. Like, if they are, they're doing a terrible job marketing it because I don't know about them, right?
Yeah.
And so, and this is huge, and I think your listeners need to pay attention to this because, we originally, and I'll tell you, we spoke at a cryptocurrency convention years ago, and this is what kind of turned us on to it. I first heard about the concept of fractional ownership in real estate many years ago, and I think it was Gary Vee I heard talking about it. I can't remember. Somebody heard about it. Anyways, it was something we looked into, and we had been asked to speak. We know the organizer of a Bitcoin convention, and he asked us to speak based on marketing, right? Because we created an offer that gave away a piece of Bitcoin as a referral, right? So we would drop Bitcoin into your wallet as a referral. It was just, we thought it was a cool marketing concept. So we spoke at this convention. What happened was we were meeting very wealthy, young entrepreneurs in the crypto world that were buying things like, boats and cars and luxury items using crypto and Bitcoin and whatnot. And so we thought, well, it'd be really interesting to like create an offer that allowed people to buy homes and purchase real estate using crypto. So we figured it out. We did. We partnered with an exchange, got the lawyers on board. This is like years ago. And remember, it was really difficult. Nobody wanted to touch
And that
crypto.
was
So we
years
really had
ago,
to like,
right? Where people are like
that was years
questioning
ago.
it and skeptical about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had to like really do some digging on it. We had to do our legwork on it, but we figured it out. We figured it out. People were like looking from a distance going, wait a minute, what are you guys doing here? What was very interesting about it is we thought it became a unique selling proposition for buyers who wanted to move a lot of money real quick for real cheap. And remember, we have a big database and a lot of our clients were from overseas. So we had buyers from Russia, the Middle East, China, a lot of Chinese buyers in Canada. And they'd inquire about crypto, using it for deposits and things like that. I remember we had a deal in Vancouver. It was a luxury property in Vancouver, and it was taking months to close because the money, this is before crypto, the money, would have to come over and sit in a bank for 90 days and it had to do the
Right.
verification of funds. It was very clunky, right? When you're moving money overseas sometimes, or there's a lot of hoops to jump through on occasion. This kind of solved that problem, right?
Right.
Kind of solved that problem. But it was, we thought it was a great, marketing idea, and we thought it was a good offer for buyers. What happened though is that it became very attractive to sellers. So sellers are going, oh my God, well, can I market my property for Bitcoin, right? So that's what we did. We started to market properties for Bitcoin. So we took, all of our, our list prices were marketed in fiat currency, like Canadian funds, as well as the Bitcoin pricing, and it was up to date, like to the minute of how much it would cost in Bitcoin, right? Kind of cool marketing idea. But what happened was luxury sellers started to call us. We want to advertise on your site. We want your company to sell our home, because they, especially for luxury sellers, because they saw that as an avenue for a new pool of international buyers, right? And so we were getting calls from even marketplaces we don't operate in. We were getting calls from, we have a development project in, the South Pacific. We'd like to advertise with you. I got a call from P. Diddy's neighbor. He had a couple properties in New York he wanted to sell for Bitcoin or whatever. We don't operate there. But, so those type of things
But
are
these
happening.
doors open up because of the simple fact that you offer this currency, right? And
yeah,
they're able to, and they are familiar with the process. I ended up getting my crypto certification just so that I knew the process and how to streamline that for my clients as well. And I also talk about it with ADUs, even how you can finance it that way.
Let me just wrap it up by telling this story, how powerful this is. We have an agent that landed a $32 million listing because of one word, and that was Bitcoin. So they called in all the heavy hitters, and he said, we also transact in Bitcoin. And I said, where do we sign? It made news, right? It made the evening news. So that's the power of that kind of marketing. So anyways, yeah, making a long story longer here. But yes, we've been involved in that space for a long time. We sold homes for Ethereum, Bitcoin, etc. So we're kind of the go-to source for that. And of course, I think you were at our Web3 summit. I think you came.
I was. Mm-hmm.
Speakers. Yeah. So we're always trying to educate people on it as well, if we can.
I agree, and I'm always looking to learn more about that space because I feel like it's still in the early phases, but eventually it will become just the new norm, especially with a lot of millennials tapping into real estate and a lot of the younger generation. To them, it's a no-brainer, right? I feel like the baby boomers and the older generation has a lot of pushback with it, but I embrace change, which takes me to my other topic. I wanted to pick your brain on ChatGPT and what your take is on that, and if you've started implementing it, how have you been doing so? Because I've been doing a few things myself, but I'd like to hear what you've been doing with it and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I love GPT. In fact, a lot of people have confused it. They thought we had something to do with it because we're GPG.
I caught that too. Yeah. I was going to tell you that was actually good.
Yeah, I love it. I've been using it what I did actually was I plugged in, I transcribed, portions of podcasts, and I would plug it in and get Chat GPT to spit out, a 5-bullet summary for social media posts, right? So I know our company's been doing that. So they'll be taking snippets and they'll summarize, topics that are talked about for 5 minutes and then spit out a summary. So we've been doing that. The other thing that we've experimented with is a drip campaign, a 12-month drip campaign for clients and for agent recruiting, et cetera, using Chat GPT. So we put in, we've got a number of marketing pieces that say, why choose the GPG as a brokerage, right? Like, 10 reasons to choose the GPG, 6 reasons. Like, we have all these marketing pieces. So we plugged them in there and said, spit out a 12-month drip campaign. And it did. It's fantastic. Chat GPT, and I think this is a really interesting topic because everybody's talking about how cool it is, but also the dangers to a lot of industries and jobs. And it's absolutely fact, right? So what's going to happen is like anything, you're going to have to adapt and change and figure out a way to either work AI into your company or, if your industry's in danger, because I think some industries are in danger with this thing, that you're going to have to figure out something that works. I saw, I posted a video this morning, I think on my Instagram story, an expert talking about all the dangers to all these different industries. But one of the things he did say was the jobs that are going nowhere are the service industry jobs, like real estate, right? Those, belly to belly, hand holding in terms of a process of major purchase, you're still going to need a real estate agent for now. So that's pretty cool. So if the real estate industry, uh, it is being disrupted, but if real estate agents aren't going anywhere, but we can use chat gpt to make our lives easier, write descriptions for properties and things like that, well, we need to make good use of it and figure out how to use it. And I think everybody is figuring out ways that it's making their lives easier. I'm a big fan, to be honest.
Same here. I've been using it for
Yeah.
all of that. I wrote a few books, but one specifically for realtors on how to build their own ADU team and the process with ADUs, because it's here in
Using chat
California, it's
gpt.
huge. Using ChatGPT. My son wrote a
Wow, good
book
for
as
you.
well. So I'll tell you a little bit of what I've been able to do. I did I actually did a 2 year marketing campaign for ADUs, and then another one for just real estate in general for buyers, sellers. I redid all my SOPs. I wrote about 6 books. I'm doing all the podcast episodes, all the captions, all the titles for YouTube, for social media, everything. Like anything that I can think about, I just have ChatGPT write it for me and create a system for it, and a system and a process. And then every prompt that I ask it to do, I copy and paste it into my Google Docs, because right now we don't know how long it's going to be for free. So I'm just extracting as much information as I can, but
Yeah.
I'm embracing it. There was a good video that Alex Hermosi posted on YouTube where he talked about how it's going to disrupt a lot of industries. I still see a lot of opportunity with it, because the jobs that it's taking away from, quote unquote, I think those people should actually look at how they can become a prompt engineer specialist, so that now that's your pivot, right? Yeah, your job is maybe obsolete thanks to this AI technology, but now if you learn how to prompt this thing, it automatically turns off. If you know how to prompt it, then that's where the opportunity is at for those people, I think.
Man, I'm a fan. I wish I've had more time to like mess around with it, but the opportunity's there. So how are you using it for like captions and videos? Like, are you taking transcriptions and plugging them in, or are
So
you
I'm asking it,
just
like, you can ask for it to spit out 12 months worth of Instagram posts or TikTok posts on all things real estate. It'll spit out the ideas. Now I have it write out the captions along with the hashtags. Then I have it rewrite it in a YouTube format with high SEO titles. Then I have it rewrite it as a blog. And then I'll have it rewrite it as a text message in some cases. Like the whole escrow process, before we started this podcast, I did all the videos. So I did little 30-second videos of myself talking about, the home inspection phase, the appraisal phase, the final walkthrough, every phase that happens throughout the transaction. And it was all scripted from ChatGPT. And I had it create an email as well. So now for every phase of the process, you'll get a short video of myself explaining the process, along with the email that talks about like what a home inspection is. So, and then I created a text version of that. So you get the email, you get the text, and you get the invite to my private YouTube channel, which was all ChatGPT created as well.
Man, that's cool. That's awesome.
Hmm.
You're like an expert. I think people should call Steph for
I
chat
did give
GPT
a
coaching.
class. We gave a class at our brokerage
Yeah.
just to show people, because I think it's overwhelming for new realtors, anyone. It doesn't matter what
Mhm.
what what business you have, really. People don't understand how they can implement it. They're like, "Oh yeah, you heard about ChatGPT," and they're like, "Yeah, it's cool. Seems like a really dope AI, technology," but they don't understand how it can save them time. I hear a lot of people on Clubhouse, for example, that say, "Oh yeah, I've heard about it. I'll mess with it later, during when I have time during the week." And it's like, no, if you do it now, it's gonna save you, and you'll have more time throughout your week. Because I've been able to do 80% of the work in 30 minutes. Everything I
That's
just
cool.
mentioned takes me like half a day to
Yeah,
do. So it's been awesome for me.
man, I love it, man. I'm a fan. I've been messing around with it. I was showing my wife. Yeah, I was like, check this out. She's like, what? And she was like, all.
Yeah, and I've been
It's
geeking
fun.
out
The
on it
one,
even for my personal life,
yeah,
right? Like you can use it as
yeah.
therapy as well. And I started surfing not that long ago, so it's been helping me. It's like my surf coach as far as mindset goes and correlating it all to real estate. I created a post actually, if you go to my Instagram, that surf post, I had it spit out an Instagram post on the similarities between real estate and surfing. And it literally spit
What? Oh,
out.
seriously? Oh, yeah. You're surfing now, right? You're surfing.
I am, yeah.
Huh.
I'm surfing out in
That's
Redondo
cool.
Beach.
Redondo Beach. The where are you exactly?
I'm in
You're
Long
in.
Beach. Redondo Beach is like
Oh,
20
okay.
minutes
Yeah, yeah.
out, but Long Beach doesn't have waves because we're so close to the port. So our beach has wave blockers. So Long Beach itself doesn't have a lot of waves, but all the beaches around me do. So
Man, I love SoCal.
you have to come and visit sometime. Oh, I did a podcast with this company that I want to connect you with. They're based out of
Hmm.
Vancouver, close to Victoria. Did a podcast with them on Tuesday, and they have the nicest, cutest modular offsite builds in the luxury space. And I was talking to them, and they mentioned they were in Canada and Vancouver, so I'll connect you with them. I
Oh,
think
cool.
really
Yeah,
cool
absolutely.
people.
What's the name of the company? What's the name of the
Oxbox, Oxbox. I'll send it to you.
Oxbox?
Yeah, they're
Cool. Yeah.
young startup company. I think they started in 2018, but both founders are builders, so they were in the traditional building space, construction space for a long time, and now they're just looking to disrupt the space. So from one disruptor to anher one,
Super
I
cool.
think you guys would be
What? Yeah,
dope.
let's go. And it's such an overused word, though, eh? Like disruption, disruptors. But
But
like,
very
I
few
don't. I
people
wish there
doing
was a
it,
better word for it.
like there's very
Yeah.
few that
Yeah.
are
Maybe.
actually, I would say, disruptors. I think that you have a really good community. I see your webinars, and so I think going back to the culture is, from what I've seen, right, from my set of lens, is the webinars. You do a really good job of making everybody feel inclusive. Also on Clubhouse, people like Apathy, all these people Ella, everybody who we would hang out with in some of these clubhouse rooms, they really like love you for who you are, right? And they're in alignment with your mission and goals and values. And I think that the
Yeah.
biggest ROI for me this year is relationships, right? I think that's
Yep.
where I want to spend most of my energy. And all these meetups that I've been doing have been super intentional to align myself with people that will help me grow, help me build a team, and then help me just make more solid, dope relationships, right?
Well, the cool thing is like, and I just talked about this with like Jay Abraham on my last episode of the podcast, is you can literally be mentored by anyone these days, and you can have a group of mentors, a group, board of advisors, anybody you want. Like here we are talking about real estate and how we're
Right.
using chat GPT, and we're talking about marketing and branding and unique selling propositions, right? And, I'm in snowy Montreal right now. You're in beautiful Surfside, California. Um, right, but the point is, like, it's true. Like, you can be mentored by anyone, you can network with literally anyone, and you can have a group of mentors now. You can collapse time, we say, right, with this. And we're firm believers in it. And you are the sum of the people you spend the most time with. That's a fact. You hear it all the time. It's absolutely true. So if you align yourself with the right people that drive you and motivate you and get you to think of things in a certain, in a different way or a certain way, then I think that's a good thing. So, and you do a good job of it. I mean, you're one of the most well liked people on Clubhouse, I believe.
Thank you.
Right? I've never heard a bad word about Stephanie. Everybody's like, I love Steph. Like, right? Because I was telling App, I said, hey, I'm jumping on Steph's
I love
podcast.
App.
I
App
love her.
is dope.
She's like, she's the best. So
Yeah,
everybody that
App
says a
and
nice
we just have this
comment,
vibe. Like we connected. I told him whenever he wants to come out here, he can come hang out. But yeah, I always try to keep it very neutral. I told
yeah,
you offline, I'm very drama
yeah,
free and just very intentional about who I surround myself with. I don't think I was as intentional in my early 20s. I wasted a lot of time, and
hmm
maybe it was part of the process and part of the journey for me to have that contrast now, right? So now
yeah,
my
we all
son's going to
do.
be 10 this
Yeah,
year. I don't want to waste any more fucking time. I want to hang out with people who I know, like, and trust and that I can build with, and there's reciprocity. That's another big word this year for me. It's understanding that there has to be reciprocity. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time, right? If we're not intentional.
100%.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So can you tell me, this is way off topic from real estate and AI and Chat GPT. I saw you were in Mexico.
Mhm.
Do you go out to
Mhm.
Cabo or Cancun often?
No, so two things. So I was there twice recently. So I went to Tulum, and my daughter got married in Tulum, which
You
is
have a
crazy.
daughter?
I got two. I got two daughters.
No
Uh,
way.
one obvi- one obviously is marrying age, which means I would have been a teenage dad because I look so young. But
Yes.
yeah, she's. I know people are always surprised. People are
No,
always surprised.
seriously,
So
you
she
look
got.
hella young to
Yeah,
have somebody married.
I
Really?
know. I know. I know. I hung out with all her friends too over the weekend, right? Like we
You're like that
a
cool
lot of my
dad.
I've always felt like my friends are younger than me. Always like it's kind of weird. But anyway, so she got married in Tulum, and that was really fun. We all went down there. Family went down there, friends from all over. So we had a great time for a week. And then I went to Cabo with a good friend of mine. Golf trip getaway. It was, yeah, we had a blast. A lot of golf. I'm an avid golfer, so played
Nice.
some Tiger Woods course, Davis Love course, etc. It was fun. Had a caddy. It was nice. It was good. It was it was one of those. I used to, it'd been a while since I've been in Mexico. I was in Mexico years ago before that, but I hadn't been to Mexico much. I used to actually go down to Southern California a lot more often every year. So that
Well,
was
now
it. But
you
I
have
used
an
to, I
excuse to
was
come back. You got to come back soon.
right. I know. Well, yeah, I'm not really. The only thing I remember about Long Beach is is it the Queen Mary boat? With
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
yeah, and they got the brunch and everything, and
Right.
yeah, I've been to that. I've
Oh,
been there.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, Long Beach is
yeah,
definitely changing now. It's growing and it's more
yeah.
expensive every time, but it's great. I mean, I'm born and raised here, but I like to go to different beaches. That's what I do for fun on the
Is your
weekends.
background Mexican? Are you
Mhm.
Mexican?
I am. Hmm.
From where? From where?
So my mom is from Sonora. That's borderline Sinaloa, right? My dad is from Baja California, so he's from close to San Luis, Mexicali. They're both very close to beaches as well.
Cabo, I love Cabo. Like that whole Baja Strip down there. Like that whole area is incredible.
Yeah, Cabo is
Like
amazing. I like Cabo more than I like. I mean, Cancun is nice too, and Tulum, very different vibe. But I like the weather of Cabo. It's just nice, you
big
know.
time. It's comfortable. You can wear a hoodie,
Hmm.
right? And even
Hmm.
warm during the day. The I loved it. Cancun is a little crazy. Tulum was crazy. I mean, it
It's
was
just
all
very
right,
Americanized now, Tulum and Cancun, right?
and it's
Cabo, you could
$30 for a bottle of
still,
water.
yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? It's like pricey Mexico. I was like, you know, you can have a bottle of water for 20 US, right, or
You
whatever it
know
was.
what
Like,
would be a good hidden gem I've heard is Puerto Vallarta. I've heard if you haven't heard about Puerto Vallarta,
mm-hmm.
look into
I've been
it.
there.
Oh,
Yeah, I've
okay.
been there.
That's much more
Yeah,
affordable, right? And I've heard
yeah.
that's a gem too.
Yeah. So I was just talking to somebody who was looking at real estate down there. They love it. My uncle and my cousin go down there for half the year to Puerto Vallarta every year, so they love it. I don't know. Mexico's dope. I love Mexico.
I love Mexico,
In
yeah.
fact, I'm like maybe I was thinking of like just like moving there because I can,
Right.
like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
seriously.
I don't know. I
You
was thinking
should.
about.
You
I
should
really
move
like
out there
Mexico.
for a month or two and
Well,
then
and
invite
actually,
me and my son. We'll go over there.
hell yeah, my daughter actually married a Mexican dude.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so his family's from Mexico. He's from Mexico, and so that's why they wanted to get married in Mexico. So they went to Tulum, and his whole family was there.
That's
Really,
so
I mean, it was
awesome.
awesome, and I really, yeah, and I really fell in love with it. I was like, man, we should all like come down here. So yeah,
Yeah, let me
maybe
know.
we'll get a
Maybe
place
we
down
can
there.
have a
Yeah,
mastermind session out there. That would be fun.
let's
I,
do it.
I love going
That's a
out
great
there.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Hell yeah,
Awesome.
I like it. Well,
Well,
you can
I have
drive
to go
there.
pick up my son from school. It's been awesome talking to you and chatting it up. I
Yeah, good
really
to hang out
appreciate
with
your
you.
time. You guys, if you guys have not listened to David's podcast, make sure you guys listen to it. Can you give them the details on your podcast? Because I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I have
So
notifications on
yeah.
too.
Oh, dope. Are you Spotify or iTunes?
I use Spotify, but that's just my personal preference.
Yeah, Spotify's been super good to it. So Spotify, we're now top 10% most shared globally on Spotify, which was
On
huge to us.
Spotify,
So
I saw that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So Spotify, iTunes, all the major platforms. It's the Run GPG podcast. So Run GPG podcast, Greater Property Group. So Run GPG podcast on all the major platforms. Full episodes are on those as well. But we also have the podcast page at rungpg.com, and you can pick your episode. We just had Jay Abraham, Grant Cardone, Emily Frisella, Andy Frisella, Dane Cook, Ty Lopez, Patrick Bet David. About to drop Robert Kiyosaki, of course, the best-selling author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then after that, we're dropping Bun B, legendary hip-hop artist, worked with Jay-Z, Beyonce.
Oh, awesome.
Everybody knows who Bun
You
B
should
is.
have Andy Elliott. Have you heard of them? I'll send you their Instagram. But they're like really good friends with Bradley and all them.
Oh, yeah, Brad's been
Brian
on my...
Benstock.
Actually, yeah, Brad, I was talking to Brad yesterday. It's so funny you mentioned his name. So Brad's a friend. He's been on the show 2-3 times, I think. And he was also my co-host for my 50th episode. So Brad was my co-host. What we did was we played clips from the first 50 episodes, and then we both talked about it. It was fun. It was a fun
That's
episode. Brad's
fun. Yeah. How many episodes have you done?
Yeah. We're at 75, something like that. So and keep in mind, we are not like your typical podcast. So we don't like drop one every week and talk every Thursday.
Right.
Live. It's highly curated, highly curated. So it's a Q&A with, like we said, like usually fairly notable guests, right? And just they take a long time to put together and edit and release. So, and I also run a company, so it's like really hard.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know how you do it. Well, hopefully we get to collaborate in the future. I really want to take a trip out there, or if you ever want to come out here, let's connect and collaborate.
Definitely.
And anybody who wants to connect with David, feel free to check him out. Check him out on Instagram as well. He shares a lot on there. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you guys again. Thank you, David. I really, really had fun with this one. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steph. Take the rest of the day off.